It's payday today, and I thought it might be fun to show you exactly how I figure out what amount to pay myself from my business's revenue, and then also what tasks I do every month related to finances as a business owner. Now, it can be pretty confusing to know what a reasonable income is to take from your business. At least I personally was very confused by that question for quite some time. And I know y'all are curious about all things to do with how I manage my money and finances and my business. So let's get right into it. Step number one is to figure out the amount to pay myself from my business's total revenue. So how I do this is I actually calculate the average monthly revenue of my business over the past 12 months. Now, the reason that I do this is because businesses have massive fluctuations in revenue. If we do a really big sale in the business that month, then we make a lot of money. And if we don't do a sale, the business makes much less that month. But of course, my personal expenses stay roughly the same from month to month. So in order to even out the revenue roller coaster, I average the past 12 months of business revenue. So the calculation that I do is total revenue divided by 12 for 12 months of the year, and then I keep a percentage of that. Now, I set up the system with the help of the book Profit First. There is a chart in the book, which I'll put here, which explains the target percentages that you should allocate to the different envelopes of your business. And of course, one of those envelopes is the paying yourself envelope. So when your business is making, for example, under $250,000 per year, the goal is to keep 50% of that for paying yourself. Now, as your business grows in revenue, the percentage that you pay yourself goes down as your expenses typically grow and take up more of the pie. You're therefore getting a smaller slice of the pie, but as the pie is growing, that's how your income still grows as the owner. For more on the whole percentages system and how to set aside money for paying yourself and for your business expenses and saving for your taxes, which is key, and also the future growth of your business, I would say that the book Profit First is absolutely essential reading for every single business owner. So definitely grab yourself a copy on Amazon or your local bookstore ASAP. I'll link it for you below if you do want to grab it on Amazon. Let's say, for example's sake, that your business made $200,000 last year. Now, divided by 12 months, that averages out to $16,666 a month. And you taking home 50% of that is $8,333 a month, which is, again, what you get to pay yourself. Step number two in this whole process. Next, once I've done the math personally and determined, okay, what amount am I paying myself? I now need to transfer that money. And I know that sounds simple, but it actually isn't because there's a lot of currency exchange involved in my case. So I charge US dollars in my business because the vast majority of my customers are American and I want the sale to be easy for them. And I don't want for them to be freaked out by paying in Swiss francs or be concerned about what are going to be the fluctuations in the currency exchange rates between Swiss francs and US dollars over the next 12 months if they're on a payment plan, for example. So to make it easy for my customers, I run the whole business in US dollars, but because I live in Switzerland and therefore use Swiss francs for my day-to-day spending, that's why I have to do this currency conversion thing. So in order to do that, I use Wise, formerly called TransferWise, to do this. I will say that this video is not sponsored by Wise. I really do just love their service. So if you're dealing with currency exchanges in your life or your business, do not trust your bank when they say that they don't charge fees for their currency exchange, because I totally fell for that one. So banks have their own special exchange rate, which is worse than what the actual exchange rate should be. And over time, this special exchange rate adds up massively. So Wise is my solution to getting the best possible exchange rate. We use Wise for my business bank account, and I also have a Wise account for myself personally. So I transfer the money and currency convert it in the process from US dollars to Swiss francs and send it from my business bank account to my personal bank account. And in that process, I can see really clearly what amount of fees Wise takes as their cut, which again is so much lower than the banks that I used in the past. So I'm absolutely in love with Wise. Step number three, we're moving right along to the actual tasks that I do every month related to my finances. First thing I do is I actually look through my budget and organize my money. So my bank account has spaces in it, and I will not use anything other than a bank account which has spaces in it anymore. I have used like almost all of the European fintech banks like N26, Revolut, Starling, Wise, and the reason that I love them all is because they have spaces where you can organize your finances. These spaces have been the biggest game changer for simplifying my monthly finance routine and helping me to know what money is for what. I actually have no idea if spaces and bank accounts is normal in America or not, but if someone could let me know that in the comments, that would be super lovely. If it is an option, highly, highly recommend. So these spaces help me know what's my money to spend and what's intended for something else. So as the money for the usual bills gets taken out from my account a few days just after I pay myself, I mostly know whatever is left sitting in the main account is my money to do whatever I want with. Now, what I used to do is I used to track every single expense and every single transaction in something like a budgeting app like YNAB, but it was so time consuming to categorize every transaction and I just could not be bothered to keep up with that. So I just gave that up and gone for my lazy efficient method, which is just sort of organizing my money in a way so that whatever is in my main bank account space is my daily spending money. And so if that account starts to get low, I know to rein back in on the spending until I get paid next month. And that's basically how I stick within a personal budget without having to categorize every single transaction. Now for things like housing and phone bill and utilities, I leave the budgeted amount for those in my main bank account space and they all just get taken out and auto-debited a few days after I pay myself. For things like grocery money or vacation savings or saving for my annual car insurance bill or my tax bill, for example, those budgeted categories all have their own space in my bank account. And again, the reason for that is if I have that money in my main bank account space, I find that very confusing to know what is mine and what's not really needs to be used for something else later. So after I organize all of my funds into their respective little spaces in my bank account, I move on to step number 4, and that is checking in on my emergency fund. So typically people like Dave Ramsey will tell you to save 3 to 6 months of expenses in an easy to access emergency fund. Now, when you run a business, however, it's typically recommended to save a few more months of expenses. My husband and I, we keep 9 months on hand. Now, it took us a really, really long time to save that, but we did it. And that emergency fund has been the absolute best peace of mind to help us sleep well at night. But it also really serves a practical function too, other than just helping us sleep well at night. We have used it on many, many, many occasions, from a $7,000 unexpected car repair bill right after I bought the car, to a $5,000 bill to get the gutters replaced on our house 3 days after we moved into said new house, to a tree cutter who quoted us one price and then sent a bill for double the amount. These types of things happen all of the time, and so it's just really great to have money set aside for it. It makes the whole experience of those rather annoying things way less difficult. Now for us, the money in the emergency fund is scattered all across a few different accounts. So every month I just basically tally up what's where, and if we spent anything from the emergency fund, for example, for a car repair that month, I note that, and if we need to fill back up the emergency fund or if it's happily full with 9 months of expenses money in it. Step number 5, next up is my retirement savings. So the percentage that I've done over time for my retirement savings has changed. Right now, I'm taking 25% of what I make and investing it to grow for my retirement. So in order to invest my money, I send the money to a brokerage account. A brokerage account, by the way, if you're unfamiliar, is an account which allows you to buy stocks and bonds and ETFs, other sort of different investment products to basically help your money grow. Right now, I'm personally using Interactive Brokers for an investment account at the moment. I am loving Interactive Brokers for me specifically because as a resident of Switzerland, it gives me access to American ETFs, which tend to have the lowest fees. And if you know anything about investing, you know that there is a absolutely massive difference between a fee of 0.03% per year on your investments versus a 1% fee per year on your investments. Now, I know that sounds like such a tiny difference in percentage, but that difference can result in literally hundreds of thousands of dollars less for you come retirement age. So if you want a full explainer on how I plan and manage my investments, definitely let me know in the comments below. I feel like investing is one of those things which isn't a massive conversation with women, and a lot of women who I speak to are really uninformed about these things, and I'm personally really passionate about making sure that all the women I know live happy and wealthy, both now and in their retirement. And so if giving you sort of like a SparksNotes version of what I've learned about investing helps, I would be more than happy to share. But anyways, so if you're wondering what are my investment choices, by the way, at the moment I'm buying 3 different funds. I'm buying VOO, VGT, and VEA. And if you're thinking, what the heck did she just say? Those are the short form names for different investment funds. Basically, instead of me needing to pick individual stocks, which I definitely do not have the time or the desire to do that, plus literally every single investment book, which you will read, will basically tell you that that's a bad idea. So instead, what I do is I just buy basically baskets of companies, also known as ETFs. So my risk is diversified between all the many different companies within that ETF basket. So if one company in the basket does terribly, and the others in the basket does really well, overall, I'm still doing well with my investment. So if you're wondering what kind of companies are in these different baskets, VOO is investing in the 500 biggest companies in America. VGT is the riskier and more growth-focused area of my portfolio. It's all American tech companies. And VEA is investing in large companies in the rest of the West. A lot of companies in places like Japan, the UK, Canada, Switzerland, etc. Now, VEA doesn't have any US stocks in it, as I already have those in VOO, and so it sort of makes sure I diversify my portfolio between companies that are all over the world. Now, what investments you choose is a super personal choice and should reflect your risk tolerance and level of knowledge on investing. So that's what I choose to invest in. That might not be right for you. So I truly believe, hear me on this, learning about investments is probably the best time ROI you could ever make in your entire life. So I'll link for you below a blog post which has a list of my favorite finance books to help. There are some really beginner-friendly ones in that list, and there's also some more advanced ones. So feel free to pick the books according to your current level of financial knowledge at this date. Step number 6, the next step which I'm looking to add into this process right now, is actually quite popular in the FIRE movement. Now, I am personally not a FIRE person. That is not my goal or the way I want to live my life. I also like living in the now, but I do like this specific idea from the FIRE community, and it is tracking my progress towards my financial freedom or financial independence number. Now, how I'm different from the FIRE community is I don't intend to stop working early. I genuinely love my work, and I think I have the best job in the world that I could ever dream of, but I do totally see the value in tracking progress towards a goal. So while hitting my financial freedom number is a fair way into the future, I find a lot of joy and motivation in just keeping an eye on seeing how I'm doing and the progress towards hitting my financial freedom number. Now, I do need to say, knowing these 6 steps is great and all, but if your business isn't making enough money to pay yourself quite what you want yet, it's definitely time to focus your efforts on upping the revenue in your business. Now, this video next will help you do exactly that. It's all about 6 income boosting ideas for service providers, so be sure to click it and watch it next.